G'day everyone, it's Curtis here and welcome to an On The Back Wheel video. Today I'm going to talk about whether or not the new KLR650 is a good road bike. Let's get into it. Alright, I'll give you the short answer straight up. This is an extremely good road bike. It's good for commuting and for touring. Full stop. End of video. Why? Well, let's talk about why. First up, it's a very comfortable motorcycle. I'm 6 foot tall, about 183 centimeters, and the riding position is perfect for me. The triangle is fantastic. My legs are in a comfortable position. Oh my gosh, it's windy. Excuse that, everyone. Yeah, my legs are in a fantastic position. The bars are at a great height. It's just a comfortable place to be. The seat's good. I've ridden it on about 4-hour trips, and I did get a bit of bummus nummus towards the end, but overall it's just a comfortable motorcycle. Wind buffeting, I'm doing 70 kilometers an hour right now, and it's hitting me about in my eyes, but there's no buffeting. Even at high speeds, say 140, 150 I was doing the other day, there was no bad wind buffeting. You can raise or lower the screen. I haven't raised it yet, but for me, I'm just going to leave it where it is. I think it's at a really good height. Maybe if you were taller or you were doing lots of road work and not doing off-road stuff, you could then raise it up. But for me, I'm just going to leave it how it is. I think it's perfectly fine. The bars, ignoring the fact that mine are very bent at the moment, are a good shape and at a good height. All the switches are very basic but of good quality. The foot pegs, they're rubber mounted, which I loathe. But if you're only doing road work, they are good. In fact, very good. Except when the going gets wet. So if you do ride a rainy day, they will get slippery no matter what. Personally, I'm going to replace mine because I like it for off-road riding, and as soon as you get any mud or any water, they are useless. It's so bad. But on the road, they're good. They're very good foot pegs. There's minimal vibrations through the pegs, which is also great. They're now rubber mounted onto the frame, which definitely helps with that. Speaking of that, the seats rubber mounted, the rear fairings rubber mounted, there's foam bits everywhere. So the KLR it's a really smooth bike now. I don't think you'd find a much smoother single now, besides probably the KTM 690/Husqvarna 701. But that bike's kind of in a different class, it's much more expensive. So how is the engine? Engine is very smooth, and I would describe it as fun. Yes, it only has 40 horsepower, which seems like an absolute pittance, but it's a fun bike. Like the other day, I was late to dinner and I rode this, and I was blasting it through traffic, no issues whatsoever. Overtaking people, zipping in and out of traffic. You get ahead of the traffic very comfortably. If you are on the open road, it will overtake people from about 80 to 130 kilometers an hour very comfortably, no issues at all. It does get a little vibey, say above 110 kilometers per hour, so if you're sitting on that all day, it can get a little tiring, but this is a big thumper, and I just kind of put up with it, and it's not bad. Like, it's honestly not bad. It's just, it's worth mentioning. Like, if you're expecting a buttery smooth twin, or you're coming from a inline 4 that's just so smooth everywhere, you'll definitely notice the vibes at those speeds. But for someone who's ridden a lot of thumpers, it's extremely smooth. It's so smooth. Even for people coming from a twin, it's very smooth. For high speed touring, it can do it. I was sitting on about 140 to 150 the other day to test it out, because I had a person comment the other day and said it was very bad at those speeds. I rode it, it's completely stable, no issues at all. Would I do it all the time? No. Only when you're running late or you're in the middle of nowhere and just really want to eat some miles. That lack of a 6th gear, it is worth mentioning for highway work, but overall not an issue at all. I don't think. Like, if all you were doing was big Ks on like open highways and stuff, yes, it would be a pain because you've got to rev it a bit, to be honest. Like, it's not amazing, but overall for road work, I don't think the 6th gear is much of an issue for the style of bike this is. The fueling is great. Look at that, buttery smooth at all revs. On-off throttle is amazing, so you're not jerking when you get which way am I going? Move across. So you're not jerking mid-corner. There's no issues there. I'll show you here. Zoom through here. Zoom through here. Ooh, straight peg. It's very smooth bike. Like, you're not going to run into any dramas. There's no flat spots, no surging. Fueling's fantastic. That's why fuel injection, like, I know people kind of loathe it. They're like, oh, it's another thing to go wrong. But mate, your fuel injection's not going to go wrong. Especially this. It's just such simple fuel injection on this. It's been around forever. They just happened to implement it recently. So that engine is good. It's punchy off bottom. It's got a good surge in the mid-range. Sounds good with the airbox snorkel out. With it in, I struggled to hear it, to be honest. And it sounds very agricultural. My brother, the first time he heard it, was like, oh god, it sounds like an ag bike. And it does. But when you remove the airbox snorkel, I'll give you the sound bite. It sounds throaty. It sounds great when you're riding it. My friend rode it the other day and I was riding beside him. It still sounds like that ag bike. Yeah, no doubts at all. But when you're on it with the airbox snorkel out, it sounds fantastic. So the gearbox is good. No issues there. It does require a bit of a positive shift, but it's been so refined over the years, this gearbox, that you're not going to have any issues, eh? Alright, let's talk about the brakes. The brakes are good. They're not amazing, but they are good. On the road, the ABS, I don't think you're ever really going to lock it up unless you do it deliberately. I'll give you a sample here. We'll go 60 and... There's a bit of an emergency stop there. They're good. They're very good brakes. But just don't expect sports bike performance or a big dual disc setup kind of performance. One upgrade I would do is probably stainless braided lines. But as far as stock setup goes, these are much improved over the Gen 2 and also the Gen 1 for sure. Much better brakes. I had a modified Gen 1 with the upgraded disc, and this is better than that. The rear brake, I know for a lot of people ABS rear brakes can be a pain because they can be overly intrusive. Let's see how it locks up here, if at all. Well, I don't know if you saw there, but it's actually really good. You could feel it kicking in, you know, a little. But it was nothing bad, to be honest. Nothing bad at all. So the brakes, I like them. They're not amazing, they're not bad. They're certainly more than adequate for a KLR650. Alright, let's talk about the handling. This thing is a fun bike to ride. Like, it's so easy to ride. And easy to ride reasonably quickly. The handling is, it's like light and flickable. Look at that. And it's also incredibly stable. So they lengthened the swing arm, and I believe they also increased the axle diameters. And people saw that and like, oh, well, why do you want to do that? Like, probably doesn't do much, but when you're riding it, it's incredibly stable, but still flickable. Like, it feels good. I really enjoy riding it. It's a lot of fun in the handling stakes. The stock tires are very good on the street. The other day I was at a local kind of twisty sections, Mount Me. It's quite slow and bumpy, and I was comfortably keeping up with some people on their sports bikes and naked bikes. Could you push very hard with these tires? No, they're dual sport tires at the end of the day. You're not going to be dragging your knee or doing crazy. Your tire's going to give out before that. But if you want to push through some corners and have a little bit of fun, they're a blast. They are a really good tire. I haven't had the chance to try them in wet road conditions yet. I will put like a sticky down in the comments when that happens, or I'll just do a full review for the tires. So if you're looking at doing mostly road bike riding and adventure riding, leave the stock tires on. You've paid for them already, you paid for them with the bike, and they perform very well. Yeah, you could put some stickier, more road bike tires on them, but what's the point? Like, this is a KLR. You're not going to be dragging your knees or doing anything mental on it like that. These tires you still have a lot of fun with. They came with the bike, and they're quite good. The suspension is very comfortable on the road and plush. Like, it just kind of floats along. It's a great mile eater. Like, if you're doing uncomfortable roads, it just soaks up the bumps with no issues. Like, that's actually quite a bumpy road there, and it looks completely smooth in footage, because it is. This is a dead smooth road, and it just glides along as well. Stock, I have put one click into the preload at the back, so it comes stock at setting 2 of 5. I've put it onto number 3, and I like where it's at. I will keep going through the settings and do an update on that, but at the moment the stock middle setting is great, and I am at 85 kilos, so what's that in pounds? I don't know, 180, 190 pounds I suppose. There's a little bit of dive on the braking, and the damping is better than it was in previous years, that's for sure. I've only done a minor update. They haven't, it's the exact same suspension, but they just updated the settings, and it is a definite improvement. I think they've definitely made an improvement on the bike. The rear rack is great for putting stuff on. Like, I put on just like a duffel bag and Oki strapped it on. There's heaps of points you can tie stuff down to, and you can fit a ton of like camping gear and stuff in there if you want to. I'd comfortably put 10 kilograms of stuff on there, so it's about 22 pounds, and have no issues whatsoever. There is the little toolbox at the back there. I've just got tools in it, but you could quite comfortably put in your phone and wallet, or maybe even a small pair of wet weather pants. In regards to fuel range, I'm honestly not able to give an accurate description of how much range this is going to get on only street riding. I have done a mixture of road riding and probably 100 kilometers of dirt riding, and I'm currently at 253 kilometers, and I have 2 out of 6 bars left in the tank. Realistically, I'd say you could get about 458 kilometers out of a tank, no issues at all, but I will give an update on that when I know further info. It's very easy to handle in the car park, that's for sure, and it's easy to use the steering lock too. You know, some bikes, they get kind of stuck when you try to go do it, whereas this one doesn't. The lights, they are worth mentioning, not just because the bike is new, but because they are good. I went for a ride the other night and they work very well. They're not amazing, but honestly, I don't feel a need to put any extra lights on this. I ride a lot at night because I'm a shift worker, whether it be at like 11 o'clock at night, midnight, or 3 or 4 in the morning. So I do appreciate having good lights, and I live out in the boonies a bit with no street lights, and I wouldn't upgrade the lighting. LEDs are just fantastic. They give that vivid white light. They got good power, not amazing power, but good power, and the high beam shoots a decent distance. So I'm very happy with the lights. Okay, you may or may not have noticed that I am missing a handguard. That is completely caused by off-road riding. For street riding, they're actually very good, and they stop a lot of wind. I've noticed that not having that one now. It's an RA700, nice. I've noticed by not having that one there now, my hand is much cooler, and these actually stop a lot of breeze. So if you're just riding on the street, these handguards are great, but if you're doing anything off-road, terrible. The mirrors, see that? They do that quite regularly, so make sure you keep them tightened. But besides that, the view from them is actually quite good, and they're in a good spot. They're just your generic cheap mirrors, but they do provide good visibility, and they don't vibrate too much. So even at higher speeds, so we're doing about nearly 100, completely clear, no issues at all. What are the things I don't like? Well, you'd always like a bit more power, right? Even for a old school 650 single, you'd like a bit more power. It's a lot better than you would expect. but it'd like a bit more power. I would like the brakes to be a little bit more powerful. They're good, but not great. I'd love a 6th gear for kind of your highway speed, touring, your higher speed, but look, I'm doing 110 here behind this guy. Very comfortable. You can do this all day. The dash, it's very simple. I'll show you the functions while I'm riding here. The functions are nearly nothing. You have trip A, trip B, and your overall odometer. That's it, and you can reset it. You can also change it from miles per hour to kilometers per hour, or change it to 24-hour time. That's it. It's very simple. You've got a fuel gauge here on the side. If the bike's sitting upright and you're riding, it's fine. However, if you leave the bike on the stand for a little bit, it will read completely wrong. It'll read usually under, a bar under. Then as you start riding, it goes back to normal. Something to be wary of. There's no gear indicator and there's no tachometer. Personally, they don't bother me at all, but when bikes that are cheaper have those items, you would like to have those items. And like right here, there's a blank spot. Put a gear indicator there. It's simple. Yes, I would love a TFT dash, especially when cheaper bikes come with them, but for this style of bike, it's very utilitarian. It's a simple adventure bike. It's so bare bones. It suits the bike. At night, it illuminates nicely. It looks very clear. I like the backlight coloring. It works well. Stock, I wish it would come with at least an accessories port. You can see here it's got a blank here because I took out the blanking plate and I'm going to install my own. And the stock accessories are very expensive. I think the stock port's $99 or $90. And then if you want to put it on this side, it's about $190. Completely overpriced. And they made it this unique style, so you're kind of forced to buy their Kawasaki accessory. This one, thankfully, I believe is a stock accessory, so I'm going to install my own there. Let's talk about the fun factor of the bike. It's something I'm going to add into all my reviews. This is a fun bike. On paper, it shouldn't be. It's got 40 horsepower, it's bare bones, it's got non-adjustable front suspension. It's missing some features that other bikes have, but for 10,000 Australian dollars, oh my goodness, fantastic. It's got a fun motor, it's got a solid mid-range on it, it handles great, it's flickable, you can hustle it through corners. It's a very good bike to ride on the street. We all talk about, specifications and what's in paper. I do it too, I do it for videos because that's all you got to go with sometimes, especially with new bikes. But sometimes that doesn't tell the whole story. Like, look, that's a good punch. That's great punch. For a 40 horsepower bike, that is fantastic punch. So overall, is the new KLR650 a good road bike? Bloody oath it is. I think for the price and for its off-road capabilities, there probably isn't a better bike on the market at the moment. I have to ride about half an hour or an hour to get to decent trails, and I have a blast riding it to those trails, and I'm extremely happy riding this on the road to and from work for commuting. I have a blast. You can still have fun on it, and what more could you say? Like, that's what you want from an adventure bike, right? Especially one as cheap as this. Alright, if you like what I'm doing, hit that like and subscribe button and keep it on the back wheel, people. Catches.